Welcome, Pioneer fans. I'm Jonathan Griffin. Today I'm joined by the head man of the Pioneer football program, Coach Mike Kellar, and he's here today to talk about the 2020 GSC signing class. Coach, thanks for taking some time out of this busy past week to sit down and talk about this signing class.
Well, today's not as busy as the previous 3 weeks have been, but thanks for having me.
Let's hit on it. 32 guys as of right now have signed. Yet they're in a line to come to join the Pioneer family. 16 in-state guys, 16 out-of-state guys. Talk a little bit about this class. Being your first class here. Back at Glenville State.
We got here last March, so we did some recruiting, signed some really good guys. But obviously, when you're starting your program in March, you're not as prepared with that class as you obviously are with what is true. This is truthfully our first class. It really started for us this summer with summer camps. Going to different camps, whether it was we visited WVUs or went to the 304 Elite or one of those camps, or if we had our own. So we got to know the kids in state really, really well. Sent the coaches out last May, both in state and out of state, and got to know some guys. Had some great game day visits. We had 5 home games. We're 5-0 with the game day visits, and then going back out in December and visiting the kids in the school and having them come here this January. So the whole process really was getting to know the kids a little bit better, knowing the makeup of the kid, knowing what type of player, person, student he is, and we were fortunate enough to get lucky with some guys and make them Pioneers.
These last 3 weekends prior to signing day, you guys were super busy. You guys had a lot of kids on campus. Talk a little bit about those recruiting weekends, because in my time being at Glenville, we hadn't really seen anything that you and your staff had put on like that, and I think it paid dividends in this signing class. So talk a little bit about that.
I played here, and really, coaching here as a staff, we started talking about how the community is a big reason that kids need to come here. And if they got to know the people in the community, if they got to know the administration and the teachers, and obviously when you see the facilities and when you sit down and talk scholarship, I think that's what everyone's doing. But something that we did that was a little bit different is we involved the community and had the teachers come talk to the kids, whether it be at lunch or at the team dinners or whatever it is we were doing. And you don't know how many kids told me that they could feel the energy that was in not just the Glenville State school, but in Glenville as a town itself. So this class really goes from the president to the community of the people to our athletic director to all the help that you gave us, the admissions office, financial aid, and then of course the staff. So I know that it was probably a little different for everyone, but it paid off.
So, something else that I think you and your staff are awfully proud of, because we've talked about it a couple times, is you got 12 kids that are promised scholars, and then over half of the class is going to get some type of academic money.
Well, that helps you in a couple ways. It helps you to get some kids, some really good packages. Those kids are coming. They're more recruitable because they're bringing, that promise is, really $4,700, and most of those kids, if they qualify the promise, they get another $1,000 or $2,000 from our school. So right now, you're bringing kids in who are coming with $7,000 of aid with them, and that makes it a lot easier for you to scholarship them and get them to reach so that college is affordable for them. It also does a couple other things. You got some good students, you got some responsible kids, you got some guys that are easier to coach because they have some intelligence. Now your job is not really to start it from scratch, but to just help them continue to have the success, academically, athletically, that they've always had.
Looking like we said earlier, 16 guys so far from the state of West Virginia have signed. Talk a little bit about some of them. I know David Livingston, Drew Hatfield, Colton Groves, Corbin Pearson, and then a guy from alma mater, Robert C. Bird's, Brock Roby. Talk a little bit about some of the individuals. I know we can't hit on everybody, but some guys that you think could have an impact.
Brock's a kid we ID'd last summer. I think we had him at 2 different camps. Big physical kid, 6'3", 285, gets the promise. Comes off the ball. He's probably ready for a run game right now, even though Coach Trickett will get him even more ready. He's going to have to settle into some of the pass. Not just schematically what we do, but if you're a guard, which we're planning on playing him and coming to college and setting a 3 technique, that's a little bit different than doing things in high school. But right now, just coming off the ball, he's going to bring us so much needed physicality. Corbin Pearson is a kid who, when I was coaching at a different school, it was a freshman and had one of the stronger arms that I've ever had at a camp. And I remember telling him then, hey, in a couple, 3 years, we're going to be offering you. And little did I know he'd be at Glenville State. But we've been on him, wasn't able to get him at camp this summer. a couple home games, things didn't go as tight, and then really the last week and a half of recruiting, we really got back in on him, and he was the guy we identified all along who was our number one guy. It was just getting together at the right time, and he's been super excited. I got to do everything I can to keep him in high school. He wants to come right now and start playing for us. Colton Groves. Colton Groves is a kid who he played against my alma mater, Lincoln, and my brother coaches there, and he called me after the game. It was like, this nose guard, we couldn't block him. We'd already had him for a game day visit, so when the season was over, we watched his senior highlight, and he was probably as dominant, of a nose guard as we've saw. And he weighed in here. He was 6'2", 285 and we didn't have a D lineman this past year over 280. So he's a guy who, at least first, second down, run down, goal line, short yardage that we hope could help us right away. Drew Hatfield, had him at camp at Mingo last summer. I remember Joey Fields, their OC, telling me that he was as good as any receiver in the state. And Joey ended up being right because he was the Moss Award winner for the top receiver in the state. Really good basketball player, really good athlete. Came down to the last hour with him and one of our rivals, and I was super excited to get that call from him about coming and being a Pioneer. And then David Livingston is a guy who last year at the Hurricane Camp, Coach Trick and I went down that morning, and he was walking away. He was about 100 yards away, and I said, "Who's that number 14 over there? He looks like he could play about 5 positions." And it turned out to be right. My son Jared was watching video in the middle of this year and said, "Hey, if you saw the kid from Seneca Valley, I think he could start an H-back or a linebacker or a safety for us." And I put him on. I said, "Oh, that's the kid we had at camp. We love David." And another promise kid, Corbin's really close to being a promise. We got 2 kids that are a question away, and you named 2 of them there. 2 of the 5 are promise kids for us, and they're big, they're physical, they're smart. And they're really a microcosm of the rest of the class. I don't want to just point out a few guys, but there's a lot of guys on there who are big. They got the physicality we're looking for. They got the responsibility and character that we're looking for. They've got the academic background that we're looking for. And it's not the easiest to get them. You got to work at it a little bit. And the staff did a great job with that. I'm just the last meeting. The staff goes out and does a lot of the work, and I just kind of said, they set them up, and my job is to knock them down. So I got to give them all the credit.
Before we talk a little bit about the out-of-state kids, you always hear this from every program, no matter what state you're from, is, the fan base, we want kids from that state, in-state. Obviously, no program can just have,
right.
Their entire roster can't be from in-state. Right. But how important was it for you and your staff to get some of that top talent that is in this state?
Well, I've always said you go as far as you have to. We set a standard for what we're looking for in the kid first. We don't sit there and say, okay, we got to get everyone from this county or this state. Then when you identify it, if there's kids in your state who fit those criteria, then you got to go get them. I think West Virginia football is good. I think West Virginia football's got a lot of good players and guys who can play college football. The biggest problem with West Virginia football is we don't have the population that a lot of the other states have. So there's just not as many of them. So you really got to work on the ones that and I played football in the state when we were at our best here. The Haddockses and the Georges and those guys, the Drennings, and those guys were all in the state guys, and they fit a certain criteria. And Coach Trickett has the state, and I'm kind of his helper on that. And we identified them and worked hard to get them, and didn't get them all. There's still 2 out there that we're hoping. We were at my fingers crossed as we're talking. My phone's off on me. I feel a little awkward without it, but we were able to get the majority of them.
Looking at the out-of-state kids, just to name a couple, Kyrie Kirkman, Sean Sterling, and Adrian Dunstan. Talk a little bit about those guys and some of the out-of-state recruits that will be coming in.
Well, Kyrie's a kid who, Coach Jawan Turner, he brought him to us, and, he's long. He's a 6'1", 6'2", but a really long 6'1", long hands, arms, extremities. He could really, really run. Good ball skills back there. And the thing that I've been saying for years as a coach is you need that free safety who's kind of an eraser for you. If someone messes it up, he could erase the mistakes, whether it's getting the run down or, covering sideline to sideline in the pass game. And the kid ran like, I want to say 21.9 in the 200. So we were able to package him with us in track, and he's going to be a 2-sport athlete here, which we've had a lot of success with. The baseball coach, the track coach. Hopefully there's a kid that we're looking at who may be working with us in the basketball coach. So if we're able to get those type of kids, we want to get them here. And we wouldn't be able to get Kyrie here if it wasn't for the 2 sports and some of the things they could do. The kid could really, really run. Adrian's a big kid. We went over to Donnie Zimmerman's combine, was it 2 Mondays ago? And, it felt really weird during the 3 weeks that we have kids on campus going out and recruiting, but he had 250, 300 kids there. And we saw Adrian run down the middle of the field, and he's, what is he, 6'3", 6'4", 240, 245, and could really run. He's got some polishing he's got to do as far as technique and catching the football. He's a guy, who we identified as a guy who could come in and really he could really help us at defensive end. We're going to start him at tight end because it's such an area of need for us, and we'll see how that goes. And so another guy with some versatility for the program. If we get a couple other tight ends to sign, maybe he goes over and plays D end. You get D ends to sign, maybe he stays at tight end. Right now that's the plan, to keep him at tight end, but we'll kind of see how that goes. And then Sean's a kid that Coach Adams had, on his radar when he was at Southern University, and a Louisiana kid. We flew him and his buddy up with their families, and families have to fly themselves up. But we brought him in here, and you're apprehensive because you're thinking, Louisiana, and he's just outside New Orleans. We come here and stick, and he came here, and he fell in love with the place, and he's very quick, physical. He'll be a strong safety, guy can get in there and play in the box, cover the tight end, man to man, help us stop the run. And those are 3 really good out-of-state kids that we've got. There's some other guys that Baltimore, D.C. area was really good to us. Obviously, you get over that Tidewater area, and then the central parts of the state of Virginia were really good to us. And we also had some luck in Kentucky. We were really on some really good Ohio kids. So we feel like we're in the middle of the state, and if we could just draw a circle right around where we're at and get everything we want from right there, then that's our strategy.
Going into this recruiting season, you didn't have a huge senior class.
Mm-hmm.
Now you had some guys that were vital to the team. Austin Ratliff, Dominic Sazauskis, Samuel Thomas. A lot of guys that had played a lot of snaps.
A lot of quality, not as much quantity. Yeah.
What was going into this? What was the biggest need that you and your staff to identify with? Hey, we need to get stronger at this, this, and this.
Yeah. When everyone asked me what we were trying to get, I said more. I was just trying to get more of everything. But in all honesty, we were trying to get more physicality. More. There were games last year, a couple of them we won, and the couple that we lost. That when you went through the line shaking hands, you're like, "How you doing? How you doing?" And I'd make the comments that our Cal teams, our Concord team, our teams, that's what we look like when we were the more physical team. And at the end of the day, big fast people, Bear Bryant said, big fast people are better than small fast people. So that was really our strategy, was just to get, and it sounds overly simple, but it's true. We wanted to get bigger, faster people who had good character, who brought some intelligence to your program, guys that you could train and coach. All these kids on this list, if they're as good as they are ever right now today, then we're not going to be very good. But if they're guys who will continue to develop and listen and work hard, which we vetted them pretty well and think that they are, then you got a chance.
Well, Coach, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you've got some calls you've been waiting on and some last-minute offers still out there. So thanks again for taking the time to sit down and talk about the 2020 recruiting class.
Appreciate it. Can't wait till the 2022 recruiting class.
All right, Pioneer fans, that's going to do it for myself and Coach Kellar. Be sure to follow GSCPioneers.com for all updates on football and all the other sports, as well as on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We will see you next time.